May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my Redeemer. Please be seated. Sometimes our lives feel like they're going somewhere, but other times they feel like a disconnected series of ups and downs, like there's no pattern in them, no purpose. We have a good day and then a bad day. We start to feel that maybe something's changing, and then we're back to where we started. And where is the Lord in this? When we think of our faith, when we think of our God, the image that probably comes to us is of striving for something, standing for something, being carried in the hand of God towards some definite goal. How do we find that cohesive, overarching vision in our lives? We know it's hard for us to be perfectly, consistently dedicated to something. One day we'll rise with conviction to answer a call, and then the very next day we'll waste the whole morning because we're not quite sure what to do with ourselves, and we feel a little hopeless. But if the Lord is with us, He must have a consistent plan and vision for us. So how do we find Him? When it comes to spiritual life, all of us wear our blinders reasonably often. Partly that means that we focus on the chores that we have to get done, or on the pizza we'd like to eat, instead of on the real reason that we're alive. But it also means that we lose sight of the fact that our spiritual journey is a lifelong one. We're not here to take one step from being in an uncomfortable place to being in a more comfortable one. We're here to walk from earth to heaven. We're in this for the long haul. And the journey doesn't make sense if we lose sight of that. It's easy when we're confronted with an issue in ourselves to say, I already repented of that last month. But spiritual life doesn't happen in isolated pieces. Whatever is in front of us is the next step in a lifelong journey, and that journey is taking us somewhere. The path is maybe not one we would have picked ourselves. It goes into deserted places where there's no food. It goes over stormy seas in the dead of the night. But this is the journey that the Lord leads us on, and He's with us in the most real way, because He walked that path Himself. The way the path winds up and down and yet still goes somewhere is illustrated in the series of stories that we heard in the lesson from Matthew. Most often we look at each of these different stories on its own, and they are each whole stories in their own right. But the stories in the Word also link together to tell a bigger story, just like the course of our life is woven out of individual decisions. So today I want to look at all the stories in this chapter as one story. The first part of this chapter is the story of the death of John the Baptist. And this is just an ugly story. It's a story about how evil seems to win sometimes. Parts of us that have integrity seem to just get swallowed up. John the Baptist was put in prison because he was willing to stand for the Lord's law. King Herod had a brother named Philip, and Philip's wife, confusingly, is named Herodias. But now Herodias is with Herod. The story doesn't say whether or not Philip is dead, but the fact that John's coming to Herod to say he should not be with this woman suggests that Philip is not dead. So there's some fishy stuff going on. And John, because of his role as a prophet, has the courage to say, the Lord has told you not to do what you're doing. It is not lawful for you to have her. and the upshot is that he gets thrown in jail. King Herod wasn't going to let the voice of conscience mess with his nice little life. And we too sometimes just shut down the stirrings of conscience in us. We start to say to ourselves, maybe this is selfish. Maybe this is a profane fire. And then we just say, I don't want to think about that. John's story gets even worse. Herodias has clearly been nursing a grudge against her, shedding light on her sin. So when her daughter earns a special favor from King Herod, Herodias takes advantage of the opportunity, puts pressure on her daughter, and gets John executed. She has John's head brought to her on a platter. The whole episode just highlights the pointlessness of evil. John dies in prison for doing the right thing. Herod is accused of immorality, and his effort to hide from that accusation just leads to more immorality. And Herodias and her daughter, as a reward for their scheming, get ahead on a platter. Something that's completely and utterly useless to them. When the Lord is told that all of this has happened, his reaction is to go to a deserted place by himself. It's as though he's burdened with grief and just needs to be alone. Very human, very understandable reaction. It's not how we'd imagine the divine behavior. But the Lord at this point is not fully divine. He's right in the middle of a profound process of transforming his spirit so that everything weak is washed away and only divine love and wisdom are left. All of the spiritual transformation that happens to us is just an image of the Lord's complete transformation. But at this point, the Lord wasn't finished that process. There are elements of him that are weak still. The writings tell us that when he was on earth, the Lord alternated between two states. And we see both of those states clearly in this chapter from Matthew. The first state is called his state of glorification. It's a state of being filled with glory or with light. In this state, the Lord was fully connected with the divine love that was in him. The love that gave him his power and his purpose. We're told that he was in that state when he was transfigured before his disciples, and also when he wrought miracles, and whenever he said that he and the Father are one. The Lord's other state is called the state of ex-inanition, which is a fancy term that just means emptying out. In this state, the Lord felt a distance between himself and the Father. Distance between himself and the divine. He was aware that there were parts of him that were merely human, parts of him that were weak. So in this state, the Lord felt doubt and he faced temptation. His temptation was to despair of finishing the work that he'd come to do. He'd come on earth to save the human race. But sometimes, in the face of evil, like the evil that Herod and Herodias showed, it must have seemed that the human race didn't want to be saved. So the Lord comes into this state of emptying out. And in order to represent that, he goes off to a deserted place by himself. But when he goes off by himself, the crowds follow him. And the story says that when the Lord saw them, he was moved with compassion for them and healed their sick. In Mark's version of the story, we're told that the Lord was moved with compassion for them because they were like sheep, not having a shepherd. He looks at these people and he loves them. He sees that they need him, and so he works miracles for them. He heals their hurts. And doing so means that he comes up out of that empty state into his state of glorification. Because he only worked miracles when he was fully connected with his divine love. It's easy to see this as just the beginning of a new story, a disconnected story. But it isn't. The Lord feels this compassion in the wake of being made so aware of horrible human evil. He comes with healing in the wake of that awareness of evil. He doesn't bring John the Baptist back to life. He doesn't go to Herod's palace and throw him down from power. Sometimes in the Gospels, the Lord answers evil by meeting it head on. But in this instance, he doesn't. In this instance, he answers evil by finding people who are willing to receive something from him and serving them. He does this in us too. Some things in us are dark and selfish, and they need to get left behind. The Lord doesn't dwell there. He doesn't get stuck there. He finds the parts of us that are willing to be healed, the parts of us where goodness can grow, and he takes them somewhere. We in this story are like the crowd that went into that empty place seeking the Lord. We also go through our states of exinanition, states of emptiness. But in our case, those empty states are about seeing the evil that's in us, seeing that we don't have what we need, and turning to the Lord as the light, going to find him. Then he heals us. Then the evil starts to get left behind, and we go on to the next thing. The next thing in the story is a miracle that shows how the Lord is able to create good things in us, even though we're empty. Evening is falling, and the crowd who come to see the Lord have nothing to eat except 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. The disciples tell the Lord to send the people away, but the Lord takes that tiny bit of food. He blesses it and breaks it, and it becomes enough to feed thousands. Bread represents good affections, such as a willingness to hear what the Lord is saying. And fish represent dim ideas of what is true. We come to the Lord with even the smallest willingness to take something from him, even the dimmest idea of what we're asking him for, and he can give us abundance. And so, out of that doubt comes an awareness of the fullness of his power and goodness. From that emptiness, there is fulfillment. But then the Lord comes again into that state of emptiness. And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. Now when evening came, he was alone there. The story doesn't say why he felt the need to pray alone at night on the top of a mountain. Perhaps he's praying now the way he meant to before he was interrupted by the crowd. Either way, even with the Lord, that glorious state gave way again to this state of emptiness. The compassion he felt was felt in its own time. The miracles he worked were worked in their own time. And now he comes again into that awareness of weakness, that awareness of evil. He prayed all night on top of the mountain, from evening until the 4th watch, which is the very end of the night, the last hours before dawn. And maybe that seems like a dark picture of life. Like it sends the message that there will always be a low to follow our high, always a doubt on the heels of every victory. Maybe the message is the other way around. Either way, the story isn't finished. from that long night of doubt and prayer, and who knows what kind of despair, the Lord gets up and goes down to the disciples who are stuck in the middle of a storm that they've been battling all night. That sea and that storm are pictures of our temptations, of our doubt and despair. Picture of what it feels like when hell is rushing around us, and rising over us, and threatening to drown us. The whole story began with evil in Herod and Herodias, and here that evil is again in the storm. And the Lord appears, walking through the storm, above the water. The disciples have been stuck there all night, but it's the fourth watch, and the morning is about to dawn. And the Lord comes to them transcending the storm. Against that backdrop of darkness, His power shines. Rising up out of our weakness, His power shines. The struggles in our lives will appear again and again. Our doubts will surface again and again. And the Lord comes to us again and again. With Him we have the power to carry on our journey even through our darkest, lowest places. Just like Peter was able to walk on the water through the storm to the Lord. He couldn't do it without the Lord. When he stopped looking at the Lord and paid attention to the storm, he started to sink. Then he said, "Lord, save me." And immediately, Jesus stretched out His hand and caught him. The chapter ends with the Lord again healing the people who come to Him. And it says that even those who touched only the hem of His garment were made perfectly well. The Lord radiates light into everything around Him, everything that touches Him. It's this power, the power of His life, that gives purpose to our lives. This is what makes our story make sense. Through all the ups and downs, the bright moments and the dark moments, there is a single strand pulling us forward. A single hand reaching out to catch us, draw us to our God. We'll go through our cycles of doubting and being lifted up, just like the Lord did. As we move through these cycles, time after time, we can be moving deeper and deeper inward toward the heart of the process, which is that moment in which we take the hand, the Savior, who is always there. Where can I go from your Spirit? Or where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend into heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning, dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. Amen. Please rise.